So much has happened in the last couple of weeks. We have seen Trump came out of the gate swinging against the military-industrial complex. But now we've got the bombing of Yemen. We've got the warmongering with Iran. It seems that the military-industrial complex, if you suppress it in one area, it's going to create a war in another area. Is Trump got some kind of strategy here, or is he not really got the power to stop these wars? Ryan's going to discuss that. We're going to be talking about Hunter Biden. We've got something about a Facebook exec. So many subjects to cover. All of Ryan's links are in the description box below this video. So please support his work. You can invest in his merch, the maps, the outfits, the University of Dawson that we've got for Ziggy. All the links are down there, folks. And please get your questions in the chat for Ryan while we've got him on this Sunday afternoon. Thank you for joining us, my friend.
Thanks for having me back. And it's some of the things we said last time. I told you I was looking at the brothel gate with the Lee cubed, James Lee, Jim McLee, and Jan Lee. And yeah, that thing blew up. And we had the former district attorney of Virginia just found dead at 43 years old over the Eastern District. It was very suspicious. Died that young female. She wasn't overweight or anything either. But she was the DA when the Lee case broke. Now, she wasn't currently the DA, but we do have another hearing in a few days. 2 of them have happened since the last time I was on the show, and I do have a list of names. So we got some more names yesterday, in fact. And we have an eyewitness putting Hunter Biden at the Charles Hotel talking to one of the Lees. So his name could be on one of these lists. We don't know the extent of them because we have at least 2,800 names from the cell phone records that we got, 2 of the 3 phones. Yep. But we only have about 30 actual names that have been said in court out of 2,800. It is ridiculous, but that's, you know, this is very high-end brothels that we're targeting very wealthy individuals. That's a way to force them to donate to certain things, force them to contribute to the lobby, for example. That's been going on. But in your lead up, you were talking about something far more serious, which is going to war with Iran, already bombing Yemen. And I said on your show, too, that he's going to bomb Yemen first. He said, will there be war in Iran? I go, they'll mess with Yemen because they like to take them out one at a time. And so we had a very sad day where the ceasefire, which has really been broken every day by the Israelis, but it was absolutely broken when they murdered over 420 people in a night, mostly children. Started bombing Gaza again. Simultaneously to that, Trump fires on the Houthi or on Asla, and HTS attacked in Lebanon. Well, the attack in Lebanon completely failed, so that's good. Unfortunately, Gaza lost hundreds of people, and the attack on the Houthis wasn't very effective. These giant U.S. carriers really can't. They don't have enough ammo they have like 96 shots, and then they got to go to a port and reload. Can't carry it around with them. So the counter to that is just to have. It's kind of like when you're playing cards and somebody has a king, and well, I'll just have 60 2s and 3s. You know, you can't get them all at once. But they are using it, and you hear the rhetoric: Iranian-backed Houthis, Iranian-backed Houthis. So they're using this as a tripwire to get in to strike the mythical Iranian nuclear program. And if you listen to Steve Witkoff's interview with Tucker Carlson, he's absolutely clueless. He couldn't even name the Oblast and the Donbass when they talked about Ukraine. And when it got to Israel, he's just, Iran is 5 minutes away from a nuclear bomb, blah, blah, blah. We took out all their air defense, so it'd be very easy to go in and just finish the job. All the rhetoric and lies from Netanyahu and the Gantz and the rest of them.
It's the exact same thing they said about Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein has weapons of mass destruction. Iran has got weapons of mass destruction. Yeah. How many times are they going to use the same lie and people are going to buy into the BS through mainstream media? It's sickening. Sickening.
They said the Israelis bombed a supposed nuclear facility in Syria and in Iraq. And it was just a warehouse. They want the U.S. to do their job. The thing is, if Iran really 5 days away from a nuke or whatever, then the U.S. will nuke them. And if the U.S. nukes them, there's really no response. You can fire a few missiles, you're done. But Witkoff, by the way, Witkoff was the go-between when Bernard Kerik, the police commissioner in New York who found a 9/11 hijacker passport, had gotten a $250,000 loan through the board of governors, Atin Wertheimer of the Jewish Agency in Israel, sent him money through Steve Witkoff, who's a marble dealer in New York. Why are you accepting a loan from a foreign national to give to a police commissioner? For what exactly? Why doesn't he just go to a bank? What is he getting it from Witkoff for? The guy is an absolute Zionist. He didn't even talk to Hamas. He went in there and all he did was talk to the Israelis and said, this is what Israel wants. And it reminds me of the Ukrainian, what the Europeans would do. They'd talk to Zelensky and Russia's not even at the table. How can you negotiate between two parties at war when only one of the parties is there? But that's the kind of brinkmanship and statesmanship we have. Steve Witkoff, who doesn't know what he's doing at all, is your point man to negotiate peace between one of the longest reigning conflicts between Israel and Palestine. It's very simple. Israel could do a prisoner swap and get all their hostages in a day, and they need to have a ceasefire. Palestinians need statehood. And in that process, you say, okay, well, your new government can't be Hamas, whatever. But they're only interested in ethnic cleansing. They want to keep the conflict going. Netanyahu needs to murder Palestinians to keep his own butt out of jail. And it's not like there's some more moderate Israelis behind him who want peace with the EA. They want it with an I. They want a piece of this, a piece of that. But they are going to annex Gaza piece by piece. They're going, just like they do the West Bank. They have turned that place into rubble. They're going to steal the land and award it to themselves. And they're going to have the U.S. attack Yemen, which will not go well. And Iran's only response, if they really are going to do airstrike, because first of all, their air defense has not been decimated. And if the Americans fly over within range, they will be shot down. And then what do? You drop a nuke to save face? Like what? There is no possible positive outcome from pushing for more violence towards Yemen and Iran. Yemen is only doing a naval blockade in accordance with the International Criminal Court and others of Israel committing war crimes in Gaza. And say, no, you don't get to come out of here because you are in violation of humanity itself. What you're doing, dropping bombs on apartments. If you had a ceasefire, then they get rid of the blockade, and they had done that. And then they reinstituted the war. So they reinstituted the blockade. You could get all those ships. You could have the Maritime Silk Road open and free. All you'd have to do is stop attacking Gaza and the West Bank. But they don't want to do that. And so, yeah, Trump's liaisons are all Zionists. His cabinet's a bunch of Zionists. And we knew this. I mean, I supported Trump over Harris. That really isn't saying much. But the whole time I'd warn people, he's really bad on Iran. He's really bad on the Middle East, but so is she. So that kind of cancels out. But we will give him credit on gutting U.S. aid, getting rid of Social Security for people who are 130 years old or older. You know, some of the waste that Elon and Trump have done has been good. But man, and when it comes to the Middle East, they've botched it. And when it comes to Ukraine, I think he's sincere that he wants the killing to stop and all that, but he's trying to get mineral rights, and they just don't know what they're doing. Witkoff doesn't belong there. He should not be in the cabinet. He should not have a position at all. But that's what the donor class wants, so that's why he's there. He's an Allison pick.
When it comes to Yemen and Iran, then, isn't this more than Netanyahu's self-survival? Doesn't this go back to the project for the new American century, the jewel in the crown, Iran being one of the biggest countries? Look at the resources Iran has got, the Neocon agenda.
Yeah, so the script for Greater Israel, which is beyond Netanyahu, goes back further. And you're talking about PNAC, the Project for a New American Century, which co-founded by William Crystal and Robert Kagan. basically churned out a bunch of policy papers that are just the English version of what came out of the Knesset about the plans to topple Iraq, because that was the biggest threat, Syria, Libya, all of which were done, and Lebanon and Iran. And Yemen is now, they see it as like a proxy force of Iran, so just include that as part of Iran. But they had many countries that they wanted to complete regional hegemony for Israel, who is right now annexing land in Syria. The state of Israel has now grown in size because they took Mount Hermon and southern parts of Syria away once Turkish-backed terrorists went in and kicked out Assad and his army, except for a very small sliver in Latakia, I suppose. So right now, Syria is several states. You have Rojava with the Kurds, who are trying to reconcile, and you have al-Nusra Front terrorists, and then you have the Israelis who have taken the south. And they would love to go into Lebanon, wipe out Hezbollah, annex that too, all the way up to the Litani River or more. But they don't have the power to do it. And they don't have the power to do it in large part because Hezbollah is backed by Iran. And the Houthis act on their own, but Iran will support them. But Iran cannot and does not control what Yemen does. It's not in Iran's interest to oppose them, so they don't. But Yemen is acting in Yemen's own interest. They had already fought the Saudis in the cyclical wars, went through starvation. They got hammered. They are no friends to the United States and Israel. And that's not really resolvable. But there's no reason that the United States has to make enemies of any of these groups. It's only because of the Israeli lobby. It goes completely against U.S. interests to be fighting and sanctioning the people that sell the oil and the gas and the resources they need. They ought to be peace and trade with the entire Middle East. But that's not what they've done. And yeah, so PNAC, they wrote a script, and there's a very kind of infamous incident with Wesley Clark talking about a man coming from upstairs. Upstairs in the Pentagon means the Office for Policy, Office for Navy, Office for Army, Office for Air Force. He's talking about the Defense Policy Board and with Richard Pearl and Rumsfeld coming down with a script of different countries they're going to take over. Like, because they just had 9/11, so they have an opportunity to go bomb somebody. And yeah, they went right down Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, and Syria. And Iran, it was either going to be Iran or Iraq in the beginning, because those are the tough ones. So if you start with Iraq, you end with Iran. If you start with Iran, you end with Iraq. And they decided Saddam Hussein was within range to hit Israel with missiles back in 2003. And so they framed him for involvement in 9/11 through saying he passed anthrax to hijackers, which was not true. And they said he had WMDs, which is not true. And we invaded Iraq over nothing. And state of Israel ends up with 77% of their oil imports from Iraq. And no more Saddam backing Palestinian resistance. All that ended with the American invasion of Iraq. The invasion didn't end the violence, though, because there's ongoing occupation, torture at Abu Ghraib, some of the worst stuff I've seen in my life. It was very frustrating watching that war come and knowing they're lying, and there was no YouTube or anything back then either. There was nowhere to go. Not that I'd be allowed on that, but there was nowhere to go to say anything. And they just sat there and lied to the public and showed them cartoon weapon labs and everything else. And yeah, they invaded Iraq over nothing. And then you thought, okay, you should learn from that. No, they went right into Syria, right into Libya, 2011. What was the reason for invading Libya? No one can even tell you. Gaddafi had been there. What's the reason? Well, I know the actual reason, but like at least with Iraq, the public was aware of some like stated policy of weapons, even though they didn't really have them. They didn't even give a good. It was like, oh, after the Libya invasion, they talked about our Ambassador Stevens being killed over a YouTube video that made fun of Muhammad. Even though there had been 2 prior attempts on his life before that YouTube video existed, that didn't matter. He was blowing the whistle on illegal gun running from Libya to Syria. That's why he got killed. And it flowed right into that. When the U.S. and others openly armed Al-Qaeda groups in Syria for about 8 or 9 years until they destroyed that country. And this is, Jeff Sachs points this out too. This is the Israeli script. For 30 years, they've been directing U.S. foreign policy into forever wars in the Middle East against American interests at the behest of an Israeli cabal.
So I want to show you a clip and get your thoughts on it. So my definition of a politician is someone who says whatever the public wants to hear to get the votes. And when they get in power, they do the complete opposite. And, you know, Tulsi, she was doing good up until a certain point. Credit to the Jimmy Dore show. I've been watching him.
And he was a big supporter of early Tulsi.
Yeah. And I can see why. Listen to what she's saying here.
Medicine and healthcare. Thousands of Yemeni civilians have died in this genocidal war being waged by Saudi Arabia with support from the United States.
It's absolutely outrageous that the United States has continued its support for years now for Saudi Arabia's genocidal war in Yemen.
It's outrageous, she said.
That has killed thousands and thousands of innocent Yemeni people and caused mass starvation and suffering, a cholera epidemic, the worst humanitarian crisis in the world.
Jimmy Dore refers to her as the good Tulsi in these videos. and then he shows a bunch of them, and until the present day, what is it? Well, basically now she's for bombing Yemen. She's gone over to bad Tulsi. Yeah. What do you make of that, Ryan?
You know, in Syria too, she met with Assad and his wife. She, back in the day with good Tulsi, pre-APAC, she told the truth. There was a cholera epidemic. It was starvation. They put 100% tariff from Oman. They were blockaded. People were starving to death. They're being bombed. And it was, MSNBC didn't even say the word Yemen for a year and a half. They did zero reporting on it through the whole conflict where people were getting blown to bits and really brutal levels of food scarcity. Babies with their bones poking out. And it was awful to see. And Tulsi was one of the only people in the government to raise a finger and say anything at all. Even though it's just lip, just blah. Post APAC, she gets rid of Daniel Davis. It was weird. You can feel like she's being told what to do, because why hire him in the first place? But then she got told, no, you can't. He cannot work for you. So that didn't even last a day. And Danny Davis is great. He's one of us. He knows exactly what's going on. He wants peace. He knows. I was so excited for him to possibly be working under Tulsi. But the Israel lobby came in and said, no, not him. He doesn't like genocide. And Tulsi is just, it's such a betrayal. I don't know what they have on her or whatever, but once she got in, and she was saying this before she got selected, she just becomes a Republican suddenly, joins the other party, and starts grafting herself onto this neocon Zionist malarkey. And then she's given power. I was like, what does it matter if you have power if you're going to just do the same thing as the establishment always does? And now they're bombing Yemen. And she's being a good little girl and doing what she's told. But the fact that she tried to get Danny Davis in means a little bit of the old Tulsi was left. Like, well, maybe he can do it. And they're like, no, you can't hire him. Which means it's not like she had some sudden ideological change. This is more of coercion of some sort. Bribery or worse. And it could be on someone near to her or on her. I don't know. But I know that Tulsi knows better about Yemen. I know she does. She's not a dumb person, which is hard to say about a lot of people in government. It's not incompetence or ignorance. She's being pressured.
There's endless videos on YouTube of Tulsi speaking about bombing Yemen from like 5 or so years ago. And now she's done this complete flip. But Ryan, so if Trump is ending the path to war with Russia through Ukraine, are the neocons just not setting up another path through Yemen, Iran? Russia backs Iran if America starts bombing Iran with Israel, and then America is at war with Russia isn't it just another route to their objective of trying to get war with Russia going?
Well, I think they want to divide them so they could say, in order for us to knock it off in Ukraine, you have to cut your support to Iran. They'll try to leverage that in. And he could play stupid like, well, I'm not doing it. The Europeans are backing Ukraine and I'm backing the Europeans. So we're still backing Ukraine. U.S. is still backing Ukraine right now. Zelensky caved and okay, you can have the minerals, whatever. He's trying to make it a condition like, oh, like we will cut off if America backs off Ukraine, Europe doesn't have the means by itself. So if America really wanted to end the war, they could cut the purse strings and Ukraine would have to capitulate, meaning all that land they've already lost, pull out, get completely out of Kursk, which has pretty much happened because the Russians dug under and got them. But they're going to lose the Donbass. They're going to lose that whole Kherson, Zaporozhye, Luhansk and Donetsk, something Witkoff could even name. That's gone. That's Russia now. And you're going to have to acknowledge this. In Crimea especially, don't even, that's Russian. And it's not coming back to you. Give up your claims and withdraw and stay out of NATO. There's all these conditions the Russians want. And if they're not met, then they have no reason to care whether you continue to back Ukraine or not, because it'll just take longer, but the writing's on the wall. Russia's winning that war and going to take all those things anyway. And if you won't reconcile while you have leverage, then you're not going to have a Ukraine. They'll just go, or they'll go all the way to the Dnieper River at least. So you're going to lose Kharkiv. Do you want to lose Kharkiv? Probably not, but you will. They don't care.
You got a question from IB. The US is not walking away from Ukraine and letting Europe pay for the reconstruction of Ukraine.
Yeah, Europe can't pay for all of it. But Trump thinks, he's shaky with NATO already, but not because he disagrees with the aggression that NATO does. He just doesn't want to pay as much. He's like, you guys should pay more of your fair share, what he thinks in your mind. Europe should pay more than, why should we have to pay for their defense? It's like, because you're not paying for their defense. You're paying for your offense. You are on the offense. You are using Ukraine as a battering ram to ram against Russia. By handcuffing them to Ukraine, Russia couldn't get involved in Syria, and Israel took Syria. By being, strapped to Ukraine, you can now go mess around in Yemen or Iran, and Russia can't spread itself thin. If the war in Ukraine truly ended, I doubt Russia would immediately want to get in another conflict, but they would be able to give more support to Iran, whether that would be in air defense systems, drones, whatever. They could, as an ally, be involved in that. But Iran can handle what's coming to them, except for the nukes. They do have strong air defense. It was not wiped out. It doesn't matter what the Israelis say. They said that to save face, because after Promise 2, Israel went in and tried to level Iran's alleged nuclear sites. They couldn't get through even one layer of air defense, and they had to turn back. And so they said, yeah, we blew up all the air defense. They didn't get any of it. Nothing. And yet Iran and Yemen have proved that they can get ballistic missiles through every layer of Israeli defense and tag bases in Jaffa, for example, whenever they want. So, yeah. That's why Israel realized they have to get America to do it for them, just like they did in Iraq and Syria and Libya. They don't have the means. But it is not clear that America has the means either to do it, short of using nukes. I mean, America has the means if it had the political willpower, but it doesn't. They're not going to put boots on the ground. And that would be, you're talking very high casualty rates on both sides if that were to happen. And Iran would lose that conflict. But I don't think Americans are willing to pay the price in blood and treasury of how difficult that war would be were they to engage that way. And Trump is not a fan of boots on the ground either. Thing is, if you do an airstrike, you don't just go, oh, bang, haha, now listen to me. There will be retaliation, and it will be on U.S. bases in vulnerable spots like Iraq, for example, even Qatar possibly. They can hit you back, and they can hit the Israelis back. And then, back and forth, back and forth. You're in a major economy collapsing conflict. They can shut down the Strait of Hormuz. They could light up the northern oil fields in Saudi Arabia. They have a lot of options to go, okay, well, welcome to gas lines. Then you're going to have to buy gas and oil from Russia. But Iran has options, but Trump is just dumbfoundingly skipping right into a trap. Like, oh, we just do an airstrike? Like he did some airstrikes in Syria, his first presidency. No, this isn't the same. You can't just fire some cruise missiles and walk away. They're going to fire back. Do not escalate. But it looks like he will, because he's got nothing but snakes in his ear. He really needs, it's better than before. At least it's not John Bolton. Like I will even take Steve Witkoff over John Bolton. And I would definitely take JD Vance over Mike Pence. And even the bad Tulsi is better than who she replaced. And on down the list, as bad as Marco Rubio is, and he is just a yes man, kiss up, company guy. Not as bad as Blinken, but that doesn't tell you much. Anthony Blinken is about as low as you can get. So it's like I'm excited that things improve, but on the Middle East, not very much. And I just hope we can make enough noise somehow to reach Trump and be like, don't listen to that. Don't be George Bush. They're lying to you. Do not go to war with Iran. You could have a legacy. You could be a legendary president just focusing on the border and all the other things you wanted to do if you would just stay out of the Middle East and stop listening to the Israelis. You're not going to turn Gaza into a resort for New Yorkers. Okay. Just please. They did an AI video of that. Did you see that? It had like Netanyahu and Trump sitting on a beach in Gaza. That is his biggest weakness of his presidency. He listens to the Israelis. Don't you know all they ever do is lie? They'll drag you into one conflict after another for their own benefit. And Trump is just, he's falling for all of it.
Well,
he's
Ryan,
ruined his presidency because of this.
On a way more serious note, a few people are asking about the origin of your attire, including my partner Jen, who said, Ryan, are you donning a new suit?
I've had this suit, but I usually wear like a hoodie or something that says "End all aid to Israel." But I was on I was doing a show about the Robert Kennedy assassination. That was like, this was the dress attire, and I thought, well, I'll just leave this on for Shaun. Why not be a little fancy one day? So
yeah, you're looking great, man.
so, I do own suits. Just don't. I'm still wearing pajama pants, but from the top half, got a suit.
Put a 1 in the chat, folks, if you'd like to see Ryan suited up more often. Put a 2 in the chat if you prefer Ryan to return to hoodies.
I got the penguin suits. Suits are good sometimes, but I like the do I have one right here?
You look great in that suit, man.
Too, because of what they say.
I love the buttons on the shirt.
Yeah, that's that Chinese style, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I live in Asia, so
got a lot of
I got the I've got some interesting t-shirts and things as well, with the message on them, but I have to do that. Like that's how I got to show what I sell. I don't sell suits. So it's it keeps the lights on, but yeah, I know